Today we're going to open up some Destined Rivals because I am starting my first master set ever. So I went through and did a little card. It took me a while. And this is my progress so far. I definitely still have a lot of blank spots. So let's add to this. Oh, I just made the plastic come off. Let's add to this collection, shall we? So let's do that by opening up some Destined Rivals. And when I do this, I want to talk to you about interest rates. We're going to learn a little bit today because it keeps talking, like they keep talking about it on the news, and I'm like, I don't know if a lot of people know what this is. And I did teach AP macro, so let's get into it. Also, I can't give high enough praise to this jerry rig everything knife. It cuts like butter. And I got a 2-pack. Look, so I have the big one and the baby one, but the baby one cuts just fine. So yeah, okay. So why am I bringing up interest rates? Well, our good old buddy Mr. Donald Trump has been putting some pressure on, well, he puts pressure on everybody, but he's been putting some pressure recently on Jerome Powell, who's in charge of the Fed. The Fed is a whole other conversation, really. So I had to adjust my headphones. So we have, how many? 6. Yeah, 6. Let's leave coughing for last and Geo for last, and then we'll just alternate it. Okay. So yeah, he's putting some pressure on Jerome Powell. Again, he does this to everybody, but whatever. Now, why is he getting mad at Jerome Powell? Well, first of all, let me tell you what his nickname is for him, because he's very proud of this nickname that he has for his buddy Jerome. He calls him too late, TOO, late. He just cannot stand him. Now, what is this in reference to? Is because Trump thinks, and some other conservative people think that he changes interest rates and stuff too late. But that's like obviously a total misunderstanding of what the Fed does and how it functions. So no one can really be surprised about that. But let's talk about what interest rates are. Okay, interest rates. Do you see what I see? Do you see something here? That's unusual. That's not a normal looking card border. Okay. Let's just hold it like this, shall we? What do you got? An EX. Okay, that's fine. And I already have that one, but that's okay. I'll take it. It's fine. Interest. Okay, interest is the interest rate, I would say, is the price, the cost of borrowing money. How much it costs to borrow money. That's what interest rate is. How much it costs to borrow money. In the simplest way, that's what it is, right? If somebody, I mean, when we let other people borrow money, I was not suggesting that. But when people lend other people money, a lot of times there's not interest involved. But if you borrow money from the bank or a finance company, there's going to be interest. Let's say it's, just to make easy numbers, 10%. If you borrow $100, then you're going to pay back $110. That's 10%, right? So the cost of borrowing that $100 was $10. For instance, that's really basic. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Okay. If it costs more money to borrow money, you are going to what? Think about it. You're going to borrow less money. If it costs more money to borrow money, you are going to borrow less money, right? And the opposite is also true, depending on life circumstances or whatever. But generally speaking, it's going to be EX. But generally speaking, so we got 2 EXs, not a lot of other stuff, but let's keep going. We have 2 more packs, and then we'll just open up some other stuff. Now, the opposite is also true, okay? Again, given life circumstances, but if it's cheaper to borrow money, well, then maybe it is time to get that car. Because it's like, okay, it's going to cost me less. Like in the long term, it's going to cost me less. So, yeah, that's not horrible. Okay. Then let's add on this other thing. I'm going to basically give you different pieces to have a fuller understanding, okay? Now, if we look at an economy, there are 3 places where the economy can be. It can be in a recession. Wow, okay. It can be in a recession, it can be an inflation, a recessionary gap, an inflationary gap, or at full employment, which is equilibrium. Equilibrium is very, very hard. It's almost impossible to have that technically happen. Okay. If the economy is experiencing inflation, okay, might sound familiar. If the economy is experiencing inflation, your money is worth less. Follow? Your money is worth, hey, we got a full art. Hold on a second. Is this supposed to be like, if we're going to get two? No, it's a normal card. Okay. Cool. We got this pretty shaman though. That's neat. So we got one full art out of the box. Yeah, it's not bad. 2 EXs. It's not bad. Let's just make this a stack. Sorry, shaman. And then let me get a Korean box of this, shall we? Shall we, since we're talking about economics? Let's make this. Oh no, I have another one. Let's just do another one. Let's do another English one. I didn't know where I put that, but I just found it. Yay! Okay. So let's open up another English one. Sorry about that. Okay. I still have a little bit more things to say. Okay. So, in an inflationary gap, again, might sound familiar, your money is worth less. Okay? Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky. Okay? We all know that right now, if you go into any store with $100, but especially like a grocery store, for instance, your $100 is going to take you a lot less far than that same $100 would have even just like a year or two ago. You can buy less groceries now with $100 than you could a year ago. Okay, we all know that. The only people who don't are the people who don't get their own groceries because they just have their minions go do it or whatever. So, think about this. Okay, this is like part 3. You might be surprised if I ask you about the supply and demand of money. Okay? Supply and demand. Let's back it up one more time. Let's talk about supply and demand. Okay? Every kid knows about supply and demand. Like, it's simple. This is elementary. Right? That supply and demand are related, and that if you have too little of a supply, but the demand is high, then it's going to affect the price, right? So, I mean, that's just basic stuff. But what if I told you that I already have this one, but I'll accept it because it's really cool looking. But I did pull this. I think I pulled this in my car, actually, in another video. So if you find one that was in my car, because I was stuck because there was a electrical wire in the road. Anyway, my point. Okay, so we got one full art. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm curious. Okay, supply and demand. Do you think that rule would apply to money? Do you think the rule of supply and demand applies to money? And a lot of times people would think, well, no, because everyone wants money. Right? The demand for money is always there. True. However, if things are more expensive, okay, we got another EX. If things are more expensive, okay, well, let's say it. Let's be specific. Let's say the interest rates, since we're talking about that. If there is a higher interest rate, less people will borrow money. If the interest rate is high, if the cost that it takes to borrow money is high, less people will borrow money because it's more expensive. Right? Now, here's the situation. Okay. I have just a brain cramp, but I have my notes, so we're okay. Okay. So if money is cheaper, because it's cheaper to borrow money, if it's in that situation, if the interest rate is low, then it's cheaper to borrow money. what's going to happen is you're going to have too much money floating around in the economy, which decreases the value of that money because there's too much of it out there. This one is just blah to me. Why? I don't know. Nobody asked me. So again, if there's more money moving around the economy, it has less value, right? If gold was everywhere, if you could just go into your yard and your neighbor's yard and the park and everywhere, and there was just gold everywhere, yes, it's still shiny and humans would still enjoy it. But it would be a lot less expensive because there's more of it, right? Again, that's supply and demand 1.0. Okay, simple stuff. But when it comes to interest rates, and we zoom out a little bit to like a macro perspective, okay, and if we think about this in terms of a business, just like you might buy a car when there's lower interest rates, a business might buy a second location, or if they're a pizza place, maybe buy another pizza oven or whatever, because it's going to be cheaper to borrow that money and therefore will hopefully make more profit with that, right? So again, I'm not saying anything crazy here. Okay, I will say this. We only got one EX here and one full art. The other one we got 2 EXs and a full art. So it seems pretty consistent. Okay, let's open up one more thing so I can finish out what I'm talking about. Let's put these up like this. Let me see what's in my stash. 1 second. What do I want? Let's do this knockout collection. Sorry about my headphones. Just not there. Okay, yeah, let's do this knockout collection that I got a long time ago and haven't opened. So it's not going into the Destined Rivals binder. My brain is not working today. So, okay. That was it. I just had an avalanche happen. Okay. Read my notes as I'm opening this box weird. Okay. Okay. So, going back to Trump. Trump wants Jerome Powell to lower the interest rates. He's pissed. He's mad. He's like, this guy's too late. He always makes the wrong decisions. He always waits too long. Again, that's a whole other conversation. But there is a reason. Like there are many reasons as to why he makes his decisions too late, and it's because it's like math and actual like calculations and thoughtful choices instead of just being not instinctual, but what is the word? Impulsive. That is the word I was looking for. Vivid Voltage and Chilling Rain. Shoot, do I even want to open these? Gosh, I think they're worth more if we're not going to open that today. We're not going to open that today. I need to look up how much value that is. Talking about value, right? Okay, I have this. Well, here, let me show you my stash. Look at my stash underneath my desk. Okay. That is a very small portion of my stash, I will tell you what. Okay, let's open up this guy. 3 Paradox Rift. Okay, that I got from Walmart at some point. I don't know. Okay, let's use the big boy, even though we don't need to use the big boy. Okay, so again, what does Donald Trump want? He wants the Jerome Powell. He wants Jerome Powell, too late Powell, to... What did I wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry. I am on the... Here, let's use the mini knife, because I'm on the struggle best. Okay. Now, yes, the Federal Reserve does affect interest rates. They set the interest rates. It has a ripple effect, and it does eventually affect the rate that you would get if you're trying to buy a new car or buy a house or something like that. Now, here's the thing. One of the most important thing about the Federal Reserve, this is interesting, it feels way different from the other one, even though it's I believe it's not fake or anything. It's just different. So the thing about the Fed, like the whole purpose of the Fed is basically to help our economy be at equilibrium, right? And have the best economy that we can have. And there are certain abilities that they have that can affect the economy. Okay. I do like this card. Look at all that food. Look at that, is really appetizing. Nice. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted again. We're doing good today. I will say that. I mean, these aren't amazing pull rates, but hey, I'm not mad. I'm not mad about this. Okay. Second to last pack, I promise. Okay. There's a few things that the Federal Reserve can do to help with that goal, and to help make sure that the economy stays balanced and not crazy in one way or the other. And one of those tools is to adjust the interest rates. So if they need the economy, here's the important thing, okay? Pay attention. If they need the economy to slow down, if it is getting too hot, okay? Because that's the thing. Okay, we want it to be stable. We don't want it to be too hot. It's like a car engine, right? We want it to work. We just don't want it to overheat. We can't overheat our car. We don't want the economy to overheat either. Now, if the economy is going too hot, what we're going to do, what the Fed would do, is they would increase the interest rates. What? 2 for a 2? And this guy, well, there's been a whole thing about this artist. Because there was the drowsy thing. Now there's the something. I think it's the same artist. Nice. 2 for 2? Out of a Walmart, like, I don't even know where I put the box. A Walmart, like, random pack thing? Wow. Okay. Okay, last pack. Okay, so here's what I want to tell you. Okay? Donald Trump, let's take a second. Let's put everything together, everything that we're talking about. 1, your money goes less far today than it did a year ago, for instance. Okay, and you could go back further. 2, what that is saying is inflation's happening. There's too much money floating around in the economy. So what we actually need to do, although it's not fun, and this is why the Fed is supposed to be not political, although it's not fun, interest rates should, with economic theory, interest rates should go up to slow down the economy. Got it? But again, the person in charge never took economics. He does not know what he's talking about. He has no idea. He's thinking about it purely, my focus is weird. He's thinking about it purely from a businessman's perspective, and we understand that by now, that he is a one-track mind kind of guy. Money. Again, we already knew that, but it's just so obvious when you're just like, you don't understand basic things about the economy. And then when there are people who do know things about the economy, like Jerome Powell, who's in charge of the Fed, he thinks that he knows better than them. And that's just like, again, why we are in the troubles that we are in. Okay, so we are ending on an iron jugulus. But look at, I'm sorry about this zooming, or this focusing thing. I already pulled this one. I have bought that one in the past. But that's a brand new hit for me. And this one is a brand new hit for me too. So, sorry about this. But I hope you learned something. I know I was like struggling with my focus, and the camera focus too. But I hope you learned a little bit something, man. Like, low interest rates sound good, but when you're talking about the health of the entire economy, depending on the scenario in which the economy is currently sitting, is theoretically how you're supposed to adjust the interest rates. Not just because you want it, if we do everything that we want all the time, we're going to have some unfortunate consequences to those actions, right? For every choice that we make, there is a consequence, for good or for bad, but there's a consequence. And the economy is an extreme example of that. So, I'll keep you updated on my Destined Rivals Master Set progress. And thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, etc., etc. And I appreciate you. Until then, we will see what happens next.